So, all right, I want to talk about Bible prophecy for a few minutes. Um, Studying Bible prophecy, things to know about studying Bible prophecy. So, the number one rule in studying Bible prophecy is to know what the scripture actually says, what it does say, and what it doesn't say. Learn the details. Even if you don't know what it means, just know what it says. That's one. Just know what it says. Now, I think it can be good to listen to a lot of people when it comes to Bible prophecy. I think it can be. My three favorite people when I listen to is Joe Richardson, Irvin Baxter Jr., and Chuck Missler. Those are my three favorites. They disagree on a lot of things, but I learn a lot of details. These people amplify different details, and I'll be like, oh, okay. Because when you listen to certain people, they're going to give you their theories, and you have to see if their theories matches up with the details. And you may have 10 details, but one theory may match up with the first seven details, and the other theory may match up with the last eight details. Yes, the second theory is closer, but it still doesn't match up to all the details, and you have to acknowledge that. That's very important. And also, we need to know what it does say and what it doesn't say. So, if it doesn't say it, then it may be possible that a certain thing may be true, but it may not be true. So, for example, the prophecy may say there's a red truck with blue windows and yellow wheels. Well, if we see a red truck with blue windows and green wheels, obviously that's not it. But a lot of times, people will try to make that fit what it says, and it doesn't. Another thing, they'll say like there will be a red truck with blue windows and yellow wheels that's going left, and the prophecy didn't say anything about it going left or going right or going north or south or east. It just says there will be a red truck with yellow with. It just gave the description of the truck. So be careful what it does and does not say. Be careful what be careful what people separate people's theories from what the actual scripture says. Separate people's assumption from what actual scripture says. It's good to listen to. It can be good to listen to different theories, but we have to understand. But we have to honestly compare them to what the scripture actually says. And if it doesn't line up with scripture on certain parts, we have to just be like, it doesn't seem to line up. Now, a lot of times when people put their preconceived notions on what the scripture doesn't say, like an example, people assume that the book of Revelation deals with, like the seals, trumpets, and the vials, that all deals with um, the last 7 years before Jesus come. There's nothing in Revelation that says that all that's going to happen during that time. There's some stuff that's clearly does, like the Antichrist, or who we call the man of sin, the little horn, in his persecution of the saints, or it seems like the two witnesses are the same, going through the same time, during the last 7 years. Obviously, they do because they get attacked by the beast and things of this nature. But the seals, trumpets, and vials, like the first four seals, might happen before the trip, the last 7 years before the millennium. They might happen before. It talks about the same. Seems like it talks about um, some of the same horses, because the first four seals are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The first one's white, the second one is red, the third one's black, and then the fourth one's pale. But if you look at um, Zechariah chapter 6, they talk about chariots with red horses, black horses, white horses, and bizzle and gray horses. So it's similar. It's not exactly the same. It's similar. So maybe there's something there to be noticed. But anyways, just assuming that it can has to be limited to the last 7 years when the scripture doesn't say anything about that, um, blinds you. I remember there was a time where A friend of mine, a cousin of mine, got a question because they assumed that the Revelations just deals with the future, and he got a trivia question wrong because he was just like, Revelation doesn't just deal with the future. I mean, the seven churches were present tense to that today and passed to us. The beast of Revelations chapter 17, um, it describes the seven heads representing seven kings. Five are fallen, one is, and one is yet to come. And then it also represents seven mountains. Interesting enough, the beast in Revelations chapter 17, it was a red beast with seven heads and 10 horns. The beast of Revelations chapter 13 also has seven heads and 10 horns, but it didn't describe it as red. It describes it as um, the feet of a bear. It was like a leopard, had the mouth of a lion, and seven heads and 10 horns, and um, feet of a bear like a lion, mouth of a lion was like a leopard, feet of a bear, and seven heads and 10 horns. And it wasn't. It didn't describe it as red. These are. You have to pay attention to the details. The details are very important. So, listening to a lot of theories can open your mind about things, can help you learn the details. But the most important thing is to learn the details, learn what it does say, and learn what it doesn't say. Like the confirmation of the covenant, people often think that the Antichrist is going to be there and is going to sign on a dotted line and stuff like that. He could just send an ambassador. He could just confirm it over Skype. He could just um, nod. We don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of things that we add. We have our little ideas, and we separate people's theories from what the scripture actually says. And be open when the scripture is silent on an issue, be open on it. And when the scripture speaks specifically on the issue, then we can be a little bit um, more confident or narrowing. And if something doesn't fit the details, something doesn't fit the details. If it's 7 out of the 10 details, then we just acknowledge, well, this is close but not quite. So these are and sometimes when it comes to Bible prophecy teachers, they kind of um, it's like they when it comes to their rules of interpretation, sometimes they don't always stick to their biblical rules of interpretation that they normally would use. So you be careful of that too. But this is just just some general principles, and when learning Bible prophecy, I think it's good to listen to people, but I think the most important thing is learn what the scripture actually says. Read the scriptures for what they say yourself, because sometimes when they read it to you, you're gonna get their interpretation, but when you read it yourself, you might get something totally different. And I had that happen to me recently with somebody. They had a theory and they was reading the scripture. I was like, oh, okay, but when I read the scripture for myself, I was just like, oh, this is a bit different than what they were saying. So yeah, so that's just all I have to say about that. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. Good night.